Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets&Quants. Welcome to our webinar on getting into Wharton, 3 things you need to know. We have with us someone who knows it all about Wharton, Judith Silverman Hodara. She had worked in the Wharton admissions office for many, many years, and she is a director and co-founder of Fortuna Admissions. Judith, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here this afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So what are the 3 things everyone needs to know about getting into this school?
So my colleagues and I were talking a lot about this and really what differentiates the M7 schools from one another. For Wharton, I think as you consider applying, there are definitely 3 things that come to mind. One is going to be your career path. The second is going to be your ability to really explain who you are as an individual, so knowing yourself and knowing your story. And then thirdly is thinking about your impact on the school. And I'm happy to sort of talk about each of those in turn.
Yeah, let's start with the career path.
When you are thinking about where you've been professionally, it's important to sort of take a minute and take stock on what created that path for you. You know, how did you get there? What was the impetus that started you either in college or right after you finished college to where you are now? So if you have a vision and you should be really thinking about that career vision, how do you get to the next step in that plan? And not surprisingly, how does Wharton help you to get there? So this is not, oh, I just graduated and this was an opportunity, I decided to take it. It's hopefully that you were driven by something in particular that really excited you about the field or intrigued you about the field, and that you are now at a point in your career where you're envisioning, okay, 5 years or 10 years from now, after I get my MBA, what is it that I intend to be doing? And so taking that time before you begin your application. And I know this sounds a little antithetical, like, oh, shouldn't I figure out where I want to go to school first and then worry about my career path? And the truth is, once you really begin to build that what that road is going to look like, you'll have a much better sense of what the schools are going to be thinking about, and in particular, how Wharton is going to be, evaluating what your plan is for next steps.
Right. And not only your previous career path, right, but then you need to detail exactly how you intend to use that MBA from Wharton, right?
100%, John. And when I was at Wharton, we frequently would have individuals from career management that would sit in on our admissions discussions. And so you need to have a plan that makes sense. You're not going to necessarily be able to graduate and land that C-suite job. You're not going to necessarily be able to start your first company immediately following graduation, right? So what are the logical steps that you would take? All things being equal, we know that you'd like to start the company the day after you finish school, but what do you really need in between? Are you going to maybe do a couple of years in consulting, or are you going to go work for a wellness company, or are you going to go work for agriculture, big agriculture, on your way to your next venture? And I think that that's very thoughtful. That plan, you don't necessarily have to know this company and this title, but we really recommend understanding how your career vision is then going to play out post-graduation, and being clear enough within the framework of your application so that admissions and people who are reading it understand, hey, yeah, this is really possible. We're not going to be worried about this person not being employable when they graduate.
Yeah, and that's an important point, because if you are an opera singer and you're applying to Wharton to go into private equity, that is a big red flag. So your career aspirations need to be realistic.
Right. Unless you're able to connect the private equity with wanting to start your own opera company in a country that doesn't have any, there's lots of different ways to spin it. But it really should, we joke, but it really should make sense.
And then your second point is really about deep introspection and your willingness to share often intensely personal details about your life, right?
So Wharton really wants to know who you are as an individual. It's not just about what you've accomplished at work. It's not the number of volunteer hours that you've spent, in the local dog shelter. It's about, how did you get to be who you are? And what are the things that makes you you? And it's not infrequent, John, that students will talk to me in an introductory conversation and say, I work all the time. I don't know what makes me me. And I'm like, oh, you really need to take the time to figure out, peel it back. And how did you get motivated? Why do you care so much about this industry that you're in? Or how do you like mentoring? Or why is it important that you live in a certain kind of, community or neighborhood? So taking the time, Wharton cares a lot about that personal side. They could admit an entire class of close to 800 GMAT scores, right? They could admit people that had all been VPs of their firms and all had outstanding recommendations. But what makes it different, and it makes Wharton different, again, from other M7 schools, is that they really want to drill down and understand what is it that they are going to be able to bring you, and what are you going to be able to bring to them as in part of this relationship. And it's funny because I think Wharton is sometimes seen as a little bit more pragmatic in terms of the questions that they ask. They're not as open-ended, for example, as Harvard or Stanford might be, but Wharton really cares a lot about how you see yourself and really how you see yourself within the Wharton community.
Right. And I think that also requires a good deal of self-awareness, right?
Without a doubt, and understanding you're not perfect. Nobody goes to business school without needing to be there. If you were perfect, they wouldn't be so interested. They wouldn't have so much to teach you, but everybody has something to learn. It might not be accounting or statistics, but it's got to be leadership. It's got to be, group processes. It's got to be how to mentor, how to build a company, all these other things. And the reason that you're going to business school to begin with are to be able to fill in those gaps in your education and to build these communities, build these networks. So Wharton in particular really doesn't want you to be just, oh, I've got nothing I need to learn. They're really eager to teach you, I would say.
Should you be vulnerable?
I would really suggest that you open yourself up. And I think a lot of people struggle with this, especially for non-American students, I will say. Sometimes in other countries, it seemed like, whoa, I can't tell them about what went on when I was 15. In the US, it's not too uncommon. You might not want to load in all the details, but if you've struggled with something in your life, or you've worked through something, or you failed at something and came out on the other side having learned about it, or having learned about yourself, these are all really wonderful traits to share with an admissions committee that understands that you're imperfect, you've had trials and tribulations, you've had some successes, and that's all of these things are who have helped you become who you are. And in turn, how you're going to then impact the Wharton community.
Right. And then your third point, the third thing you really need to know about applying to Wharton is you need to let Wharton know what impact you can have on the community there, right?
100%. They really want to make sure that the individuals that are coming are going to leave the school a better place than they found it. Does that mean that they're involved in clubs? Does that mean that they're second-year students that are giving case study reviews to first-year students? Does that mean that you get involved in a Habitat for Humanity, which is very big in West Philadelphia? There's so many different ways. In the classroom, are you the person that's motivating your teammates to kind of get the project in for review, collaboration and coordination? Although Wharton has a really large class, somewhere between 825 and up, this is definitely a place where people are fully engaged with one another. And it's a lot of intensely personal relationships, and it's a lot of teamwork. And that's something that, not surprisingly, that Wharton really brings out in their team-based interview. Before you're admitted, they really want to see how you're going to interact with one another. So for Wharton, they know how much you're going to get out of the experience. They know that you're going to grow. They know that you're going to have great job prospects. They know that they're going to help you to understand your leadership capabilities. But they're also super curious about what it is that you're bringing to the table that sets you apart from everybody else who's applying. And I would say that really links back to one of the first pieces, which was knowing yourself and understanding, what is it that makes you special and makes you different. And I really can't underestimate that enough, that sometimes schools have certain personalities publicly. They're seen as this, they're seen as that. And without a doubt, taking the time to dive into the schools through these kinds of sessions, by visiting, by talking with current students or alums, these are all wonderful ways to get to know what it is that you see yourself being able to do when you get to an institution, and how, once again, they're going to be better for having had you as a student.
And on some level, that's a little counterintuitive, because I think most applicants would apply thinking, okay, what am I going to get from the school? Not what am I going to give back to the school, right?
It's true. And most schools know what makes them great. They don't need to be told again and again and again, this and that and the other thing, and these are the reasons, and this is the faculty, and these are the resources. Although Wharton wants to understand specifically how these resources are going to affect you, but they are really deeply interested in how having you on the campus makes an impact. Are you going to be a leader 5 years from now? Are they going to remember what you worked on and what you were involved with? And then when you think about it, the school's been around since the 1880s, right? So that's a lot of alumni connections. Are you going to pick up the phone when someone's reaching out after you've graduated? Are you going to go to the alumni forums that are held all over the world? Are you going to be able to connect with people that you went to school with about ideas, about funding, about scholarship? And so these are all really intrinsic values, I think, that Wharton has been pretty much hard at work at, for over 100 years.
Now, Judith, if someone wants a free consultation, how do they get one?
You can email us. You can call us directly. I do the free consultations all the time. I love them. It's a great way to find out what students are thinking about, what they're concerned about. It is considered, the gold standard by many folks in the industry. We are eager to talk to you about what's on your mind, what's keeping you up at night. It's a half an hour. It always goes longer. Sometimes students will say to me, oh, we're at our time. I'm like, take your time. I'm here. We want to go through this with you. And whether or not students eventually sign up with us, many of them do, but we really feel like we're able to provide some sort support, a connection, and an opportunity for them to sort of start their MBA application process.
That's great. And everyone out there can find Judith at fortunaadmissions.com and ask for a free consultation from her or one of her colleagues. You're very eager to do that. And I know that you speak with a lot of different candidates in every given admission season.
Yes.
So Judith, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John. It was great to see you.
So now you know the 3 things to get into Wharton Business School. And if you're really interested in getting to Wharton, you want to talk to Judith. So check out a free consultation with her or one of her colleagues at Fortuna Admissions. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.